Trump posted about how we don't need anything from Canada. We don't need their cars or energy or lumber or anything they have. But then when the new prime minister showed up in person, it was as if they were a couple of old pals.
Concession?
Yes, concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada.
Poor Mark Carney had a hell of a job today. It was like an Ewok going to a meeting on the Death Star. He handled it well, though. He handled it very well. He came prepared.
How do you turn a simple political meeting into a public humiliation that the whole world talks about? That's exactly what happened when Donald Trump tried to pressure Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, into making Canada the 51st state. But instead of backing down, Carney calmly shut him down, not once, but again and again, while the cameras rolled.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale.
From viral quotes to brutal facial expressions and even media roasts that turned into memes, this meeting quickly spiraled into one of Trump's most embarrassing moments as Mark Carney humiliated Trump live on TV. So how did Carney manage to outplay Trump so smoothly while keeping his cool? Well, let's break it down. It started like any typical Oval Office photo op. Donald Trump welcomed Canada's new Prime Minister, Mark Carney, with his usual charm. Smiles were exchanged, pleasantries were shared, and for a moment, it looked like a friendly diplomatic session. But then Trump steered the conversation toward his long-standing idea, turning Canada into America's 51st state. Confidently, he explained why he believed such a deal would be great for Canadians.
It would really be a wonderful marriage because it's two places that get along very well. They like each other a lot. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things.
Carney listened quietly, staying calm as Trump outlined the so-called advantages. Trump even claimed the border between the two countries was just an artificially drawn line that should be erased because, in his words, it's the way it was meant to be. He described himself as a very artistic person, tying it all back to his background as a real estate developer. The tone in the room shifted. Reporters noticed Carney's quiet, focused expression. He didn't interrupt or challenge Trump in the moment. Instead, he allowed the president to speak at length, all while preparing a response that would soon make headlines worldwide. What started as a routine diplomatic chat was already slipping into uncomfortable territory, and Carney was about to take control. He simply delivered a calm reply that quickly became the most talked about quote of the day.
As you know from real estate, there are some places that are never for sale.
That's true.
We're sitting in one right now, Buckingham Palace that you visited as well.
That's true.
And having met with the owners of Canada over the course of the campaign last several months, it's not for sale, won't be for sale.
Trump nodded, replying casually with never say never, but it was clear he wasn't expecting such a firm answer. Reporters in the room noticed how Carney kept a steady tone without letting the situation escalate. As the news spread, political shows and comedians quickly picked it up. The Daily Show wasn't left out.
I think Donald Trump just got friend-zoned. Canada's like, you have been such an amazing ally, but I really think we just work better as sovereign neighbors.
The phrase, not for sale, ever, began trending across social media. People praised Carney for standing firm while staying professional. It became a symbol of holding strong under political pressure. As the meeting continued, a reporter asked Trump what concession he hoped to get from Canada. Trump paused, smiled, and said,
Concession?
Yes, that's not a concession.
No, we're going to be friends with Canada. Regardless of anything, we're going to be friends with Canada. Canada is a very special place to me. I know so many people that live in Canada.
His answer surprised many in the room. In a serious political meeting, he was now describing friendship as a concession. But before we continue, if you're enjoying the video so far, please subscribe. Now moving on. The media immediately picked up on this moment. Political commentators noted how unusual it was for a leader to treat friendship as something to bargain for. Late-night comedians took the moment even further.
Revealing and so deeply sad that Trump considers friendship a concession.
Canada is not going to you.
Carney didn't even react directly to the friendship comment. His earlier message had already made Canada's position clear. Still, the friendship moment became a viral talking point. It showed how Trump had shifted from making serious demands to seeking approval in a very public setting. As Trump continued, Carney mostly stayed quiet, but his facial reactions didn't go unnoticed. Reporters in the room and viewers watching the broadcast saw Carney's composed but revealing expressions as Trump made bold and sometimes confusing statements. Outside the Oval Office, this became a topic of media discussion. At a press conference later that day, a reporter from the Toronto Star, Tunda McCharles, asked Carney directly what he had been thinking when Trump spoke about erasing the border and criticized previous Canadian leaders.
I was watching your face through the meeting in the Oval Office, and I wondered what was going through your mind when the president talked about erasing the artificial border and how he criticized your predecessor and Madam Freeland.
Carney smiled and replied,
Thank you for your question. I'm glad that you couldn't tell what was going through my mind.
That simple, careful answer quickly made the rounds on social media and news coverage. Commentators praised how Carney held his ground, not just with words, but with subtle expressions that reflected both professionalism and quiet disapproval. His expressions became memes and GIFs, adding to the public's view that Carney had stayed in control, even as Trump's comments became increasingly unusual. As the meeting moved to trade, Trump made another bold claim. He said the United States didn't really do much business with Canada, and that Canada relied heavily on American support. His exact words raised immediate concerns among reporters and economists.
Well, we don't do much business with Canada from our standpoint. They do a lot of business with us. We're at like 4%.
This statement was quickly challenged by journalists and fact-checkers. In 2024 alone, Canada was America's largest customer for goods and services, purchasing over $349 billion worth media outlets, including CNN, confirmed that trade between the two countries was not only large, but also deeply connected across multiple industries.
Canada is the largest purchaser of American goods.
Late-night shows were quick to highlight Trump's confusion over trade numbers. Seth Meyers pointed out that if Canada does business with the U.S., then the U.S. automatically does business with Canada. The Daily Show also added some humor.
I mean, she's married to me, but I'm not married to her, you know.
Anyway, Carney remained steady and responded by explaining Canada's actual trade role. He reminded everyone that Canada and the US have a tightly linked auto industry, with half the parts in Canadian-built cars coming from the United States. He also made it clear that Canada wasn't planning to change its view on being a US state and emphasized that future trade talks would need to reflect mutual respect and realistic expectations. The media widely reported that Trump's trade claims had been thoroughly debunked and that Carney's calm, fact-based approach helped reinforce his credibility during the exchange. Even before the Oval Office meeting took place, Carney had already made his position clear. During his campaign and early speeches as Prime Minister, he explained that the era of relying on US-anchored trade, which had lasted since World War II, was coming to an end. This was not just about reacting to Trump's proposals. It reflected a broader shift in Canada's trade and foreign policy. He said,
The global economy is fundamentally different today than it was yesterday. The system of global trade anchored on the United States that Canada has relied on since the end of the Second World War, a system that, while not perfect, has helped to deliver prosperity for our country for decades, is over.
Carney outlined Canada's new plan. He said his government would be working hard to expand trade with other countries and build economic partnerships that didn't depend on US leadership. He also spoke about forming a coalition of like-minded nations that value cooperation and the open exchange of goods, services, and ideas. He then added a surprise.
If the United States no longer wants to lead, Canada will.
By the time Carney met with Trump, this strategy was already public. His calm and fact-based responses during the Oval Office meeting reflected that policy. He made it clear that Canada would stand on its own terms and decide its future direction without pressure. Commentators noted that Carney's approach throughout the meeting had been consistent. He responded to Trump's statements with facts, stayed calm under pressure, and made sure that Canada's position was fully understood. Polls after the meeting showed that Carney's strategy resonated not just with Canadians, but with international audiences as well. Many saw his leadership as a refreshing contrast to Trump's unpredictable approach. Even US commentators noted that Trump's trade policies and aggressive style were being rejected both abroad and at home. So after everything we've seen, was this the most polite takedown in political history? Or did Mark Carney just write the new playbook for standing up to world powers? What's your take? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. And before you leave, check out our other video. You'll love it.